Hello, I'm going to read George Washington and the General's Dog. George Washington loved animals. George learned to ride horses as a boy. Sometimes he rode into town. George rode fast, but he never fell. People said he was the best rider they had ever seen. When George grew up, he moved to a farm called Mount Vernon. Every day, George checked on the horses and hogs. He checked on the oxen, mules, and sheep, but he spent the most time with his dogs. George had a lot of dogs. He owned 36 dogs in his lifetime. He took them hunting, he played with them. He even gave them cute names like Mopsy, Sweet Lips, and True Love. Sometimes George spoiled his dogs. He let them run around the house. One day, George's wife, Martha, cooked a ham for dinner. George's dog, Vulcan, jumped up and stole the ham right off the table. Martha chased it after him, but George just laughed. 아주 버릇을 spoil이라고 하면 버릇을 나쁘게 들였다는 뜻이에요. George liked being at Mount Vernon with Martha and the animals, but America needed him. America was not yet its own country. It was an English colony. That means it belonged to England. Many American colonists wanted to be free from England, so they went to war. The war was called the American Revolution. 이 당시 미국은 다 자신의 나라가 아니었어요. 이 말은 영국의 식민지였다는 뜻이에요. 하지만 많은 미국 식민자들은 당연히 영국에게서 독립을 원했겠죠? 그래서 전쟁이 일어났는데 그 전쟁 이름이 American Revolution이었어요. The colonists chose George to be their general. George chose his favorite dog, Sweet Lips, to go with him. He said goodbye to Martha and Mount Vernon. He jumped on his horse, Nelson. Then he rode into battle. Sweet Lips was right behind him. 이제 전투에 갑니다. In George's day, soldiers often brought dogs with them to war. Dogs helped hunt. Dogs helped track the way. Dogs helped guard against wild animals. Best of all, dogs were great partners. The general of the English army was named William Howe. He had a dog too. He also had 9,000 soldiers. They had plenty of supplies. 영국군이네요. George did not have nearly as many supplies. Sometimes his soldiers were cold. Sometimes they were hungry, but they did not give up. In the fall of 1777, George's troops went to Pennsylvania. They were fighting the English troops. Guns fired. Rat-a-tat-tat. Cannons roared. Boom, bang, smoke filled the air. Finally, the fighting ended. The English soldiers went back to their camp. The battle was over for the day. The smoke began to clear. George noticed a dog without a soldier. It looked lost. George bent down and patted the dog's head. 길 잃은 개를 발견했어요. The dog followed George back to the colonist camp. He wagged his tail. Whose dog is this? Wondered George. George looked at the dog's collar. The tag had a man's name on it. That name was William Howe. William Howe? George couldn't believe his eyes. William Howe was the enemy. 영국군, 즉 적군의 개였어요. Word about the enemy dog spread through camp. Some of George's men wanted to keep the dog, but George said no. George believed the dog belonged with his master. George had his friend Alexander Hamilton write a note to General Howe. The note said that George wanted to return the dog. 이거 비록 적군이지만 걔는 주인에게 돌려줘야 한다고 생각했대요. Both sides raised white flags. The white flags meant no one could fight. George's soldiers walked the dog across the battlefield. They gave him back to General Howe. 비록 전쟁 중이지만 하얀 깃발을 들고 전쟁을 잠시 멈추고 걔를 돌려줬대요. People in England found out about George's good deed. The English still wanted to beat George and win the war, but now they respected him. Some English people even liked him. They had never heard a story of such great kindness between enemies. In 1783, America won the war against England. America became its very own country. George Washington went home to Mount Vernon. 드디어 독립을 했습니다. Friends around the world wanted to honor George. They wondered what he would like. Then they remembered the story about the dog. Soon, presents started arriving at Mount Vernon. The King of Spain sent George a mule. George named him Royal Gift. A friend from France gave George an even bigger gift, 7 dogs. George's work was not done though. The American people needed a leader. They elected George to be their first president. 그래서 최초의 대통령이 됩니다. People all over America loved their new president. They cheered when he rode by in his carriage. They knew it was him because his 6 white horses always led the way. Bye.